Bayou Bistro, making your special event something else.
LA 21-12671. Offices in Baton Rouge.
WNXX, Jackson, KNXX, Donaldsonville, and WDGL HD2 Baton Rouge. This hour brought to you by Callahan Injury Lawyers. Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Welcome in. Hunt Palmer coming to you from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge studio downtown in the capital city on this Monday. Hope your work week's off to a good start. Got Casey Gaines and Jacob Beck back there on the ones and twos. Lots of baseball to get to from 1 to 3 today. We will talk a little football in the second hour as well. LSU has announced its representatives for next week's SEC Media Days. So we'll tell you about that in hour number 2. But a lot on the draft for Major League Baseball from a lot of different angles in hour number 1. We'll chat with Leah Vann from The Advocate coming up at 1:30. She, of course, covered this team start to finish and has been on top of talking about where these guys have been selected thus far and where they will be selected today. The round 3 of the Major League Baseball draft started a minute and 12 seconds ago. So as things continue to happen over the next 2 hours, we'll get you updated on them. But last night was the fireworks show for LSU baseball, and it just could not have gone any better for LSU last night. It was basically, as you've heard probably many times by now, an infomercial for the program. Whether you were on ESPN, you had Kyle Peterson and Chris Burke talking about LSU and their run through Omaha in the first 2 picks. If you were on MLB Network, Jay Johnson was on the set talking about his team and talking about the guys who went at the top of this draft. And it was just another massive, massive day for the LSU brand that is growing stronger and stronger and stronger with each day. It started really, back when the season started with this super team, as people were talking about it, and the number 1 team in the country, and it finished the way it did in Omaha with LSU taking over the town and winning the championship in a decisive 3rd game. And then last night was what we all hoped would be the last box to check. And it went the way that we hoped it would. A lot of the reports yesterday had Wyatt Langford going with that first pick. And quite frankly, the Pirates did a great job of playing poker. I don't know how important it is to do that. It's not like the Major League, the NFL draft or the NBA draft where you can field phone calls and trade picks. But they kept things very close to the vest. There was a lot of buzz around Dylan Cruz upping his number and wanting over $10 million. And we went through all of that on Friday and why that matters and why it doesn't. But in the end, Paul Skenes was the pick for the Pittsburgh Pirates. He goes in that number 1 slot that is worth $9.721 million. And I'll put my hand up. I just whiffed on this back in the fall. I saw Paul Skenes pitching. I thought he was a weekend starter. I thought he was a really nice addition to the program. But I looked at his numbers from Air Force and I went, okay, that's pretty good. I mean, you're talking about a guy who took the baseball against Texas, who was a national seed last year in game 1 of the regional and got knocked around a little bit. And his numbers against the Mountain West were good, not great. And I just kind of looked at him in the fall as I was watching, and I'm going, okay, nice arm. I didn't see this coming. Setting the SEC record for strikeouts, having the A&M coach and the Tennessee coach and the Arkansas coach say they've never seen anyone that good. Having Jay Johnson, who does talk his team up a good bit, say this is the best pitcher I've ever seen in college. I did not see that coming in the fall. I'm not a scout. I'm not a talent evaluator. I saw a guy who was throwing 97 with a pretty good slider. Thought, okay, we can work with that. And he became maybe the most dominant force in the history of the program, and the Pirates rewarded him for that. If you look at my Twitter, last night I retweeted a tweet of mine from October the 6th. And it was Paul Skenes facing Dylan Cruz in a fall scrimmage. And I tweeted Skenes versus Cruz, probably about $10 million in signing bonuses next summer, which is obviously the season we're in right now. And I whiffed on that one significantly because Skenes' slot is 9.721, and Cruz followed him up with 8.998. So that is basically $18 million worth of signing bonus right there for those two guys. Now, we'll see what they actually sign for. Sometimes it's not right on the slot value, but absolute rock stars in this program and part of kind of the face. And I spent a lot of time right after the championship. I was traveling the next day, but came back on the show on Wednesday, and I said, look at the stories. Look at Ty Floyd. Look at Josh Pearson. Look at Cade Beloso. Look at Gavin Dugas. Look at Nate Ackenhausen, Riley Cooper. Look at Gavin Guidry. Look at Jordan Thompson. Look at Josh Pearson. I mean, you go through the entire roster about the depth and the journeys and the stories of guys who were highly thought of or lost their job or came on late or had their struggles. Thatcher Hurd fits right into that mix as well. But the face of this thing throughout all of that has been Skenes and Cruz. And we'll talk later on in the show about Dylan Cruz's merits in this program because we finally saw the end of it last night. But those two guys were the face, and they are the brand, and they are the loudest voices, even though they're not because they're very soft-spoken guys, in this baseball program. And last night, I was so fired up. I mean, look, as a Cubs guy, Skenes coming in the division, not great. But I was so fired up to have those two guys go first. I understood some of the rumors that were swirling around. And I think Wyatt Langford's going to be a heck of a big leaguer. I don't know the high school guys as much. Max Clark looks great to me. I don't know. But I watched Wyatt Langford play. That dude has got 30 homers written all over him in the big leagues. And I would have thought that would have been a great pick for the Pirates. Would have been a great pick for the Nationals. But what I wanted was to have those two guys go 1 and 2. I didn't care which order. I wanted those guys to go 1 and 2. I think that this team, it's like I said from the Ameristar in Omaha, as I was about to wrap my show and head off to the ballpark, I said, look, this team should win. This team deserves to win. And those two guys deserve to go 1 and 2. And so what do they have? Well, you've got massive ceilings. I feel differently about Skenes and Cruz than I did about Nola and Bregman. I felt Nola and Bregman just had massively high floors. Now, they both became all-stars. They've both gotten Cy Young and MVP votes. They've been studs at the next level. But I thought, okay, Bregman, at very worst, is going to play you a serviceable infield, is going to hit 280 for you, and is going to be a solid player. At worst. He might be a great player, but his floor is so high. I thought the same thing about Nola. You can plug him in. He's going to be a third or fourth starter. He's going to throw strikes. He's going to give you 6 or 7 innings a lot of the time. Like, the floor is, he's just going to get there quickly. The floor is very high. And those guys have reached towards their ceiling. These two guys' ceilings are Cy Young MVP. You never know. You never quite know. But Skenes and Cruz figure to play big league baseball this time next year. Skenes is a starting pitcher who throws 100 miles an hour with a good slider. And Cruz as a center fielder who's going to run things down in the gap, who's going to hit for a high average, he's going to get on base, he's going to command the strike zone, and I think the power will come. I think Wyatt Langford's got more power than Cruz right now and probably will moving forward. Cruz is not going to be a power hitter in the major leagues. He's going to be a complete hitter. And so I feel differently about these two guys than I did Nola and Bregman. I see stars with these two. The potential was there for Nola and Bregman. That seems like it's really attainable for these two guys. So you go back to my tweet from October 6th where I missed by $8 million, but then you think about the fact that we got to sit there and watch that for a whole year. And I think I did a really good job personally with the 2019 football team of soaking it all in. And I think I did a good job with these two guys of soaking it all in. We got 3 years of Cruz. And we'll talk about him a little bit later. But Skenes was kind of here one day, gone the next. But it was something when he was out there. LSU's now had two guys in my time of really paying attention and focusing with the program that forced opposing coaches to change their pitching staff and change their rotation. Nola had folks do it. I remember going to College Station, 2014. They were flip-flopping Daniel Mingden all over the place. That's what we saw from folks against Skenes. Kentucky did it. Georgia did it. Mississippi State did it. And it was a heck of a thing to watch. And I was sitting there as the draft came on, and I was going, man, if they take Langford, like, that's a really good pick. But this is the way it should be LSU. This is LSU's time. This is LSU preseason number 1, national champions, coaches on the set. It should be those two guys. Let's see what the Pirates want to do. And it was never about the Pirates being cheap. It was about the Pirates making the money work and spending it all. They weren't getting a discount. They were going to spend it all, just a matter of where. And they decided that Paul Skenes was the guy that they wanted to tab, and that made the Nationals pick real easy as they went with Dylan Cruz. So we'll see in the coming weeks what the numbers actually flush out to be, but it's going to be a lot more than the $10 million I speculated about on October 6th of 2022. So the third round is underway. There are 10 minutes gone. I haven't seen a single pick. I'll dive in during the breaks, and as things happen, we'll let you know. But I want to set the stage for you today as to what we're looking at for those that aren't as familiar. This is where you start getting into some of the high school players. This is where you start getting into some of the other guys in LSU's roster. If a player is picked today, whether it's in the third round or the 10th round, if they are picked today, it is very, 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 very likely they will sign with that professional team. The way that call goes, it's quick. They've got 2 minutes between picks. The call goes like this. Hey, Trey Morgan. Hey, Ty Floyd. Hey, Cam Johnson, whoever it may be. And we'll talk about this in a few minutes in hour number 2. Hey, you know, what about 800,000? What about 1.1? What about 280,000? And at that point, they'll agree. Nothing's signed at that point. But if the name gets called, it is likely an agreement has been reached. Now, Brandon Sproat, Florida's ace, was drafted on this day last year, and fairly early with a fairly favorable slot. And at that point, he had probably agreed to a number. And whether that number was offered to him when the actual contract hit the desk, he turned it down. So it does happen, but it's very rare. So if you see one of LSU's signees or team members picked on this day, you're looking at a guy that's very likely to sign a professional contract. So we'll talk about that a little bit later on. Leah Vann's going to be with us in 15 minutes. When we come back, big day for a couple of other guys in LSU's program. We'll talk about that on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
Make this summer your backyard party year with Chris's Specialty Foods. Wings, burgers, brisket, steak, and boudin, plus great Cajun side dishes. We do all the prep, and you enjoy laughing with friends and family. Chris's Specialty Foods, Millerville, New Orleans, Prairieville, and Frisco.
Everybody loves Chris's authentic Cajun meat.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR presented by Relief Windows. We'll recap rounds 1 and 2 of the Major League Draft. Any surprises? Where did Cruz and Skenes go? We'll know. Join us 3 to 6, 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Day 2 of the Major League Baseball draft is underway. The third round started about 15 minutes ago. Some familiar names have come off the board already today. Hunter Holland, the left-hander from Arkansas, goes to the Reds. Of course, familiar with him. He was great against LSU a couple of times this year. South Carolina's number 2, Jack Mahoney, goes with the 77th pick of the Major League Baseball draft. That's a name that you should be pretty familiar with. He was really good for South Carolina most of this year. Florida shortstop Josh Rivera goes with the 81st pick. That is to my Chicago Cubs. Heck of a pick there by the Cubbies in the third round to get Josh Rivera, who came back to school for his senior year and was really, really strong. Seth Keener. How about that? As I'm scrolling through, Seth Keener, not what I'm talking about there, but he goes in the third round. And just off the board to the Tampa Rays at number 88, LSU first baseman Trey Morgan. He does go in the third round. That is fantastic for Trey. Let's see if I can get a slot value on the 88th pick real quick. I have it pulled up. It's going to be pretty good. I do have it. The 88th pick to the Rays, slot value of $783,000 to Trey Morgan. And that is such an organization that would take Trey Morgan. He's a good athlete. He's a guy that can do different things on the field, and that's very much what the Rays are in the business of. They just love baseball players that they can move around. Maybe Trey is a first baseman, and they may try him there. Maybe he is a left fielder. We'll see. But Tampa's a great spot for Trey. I was kind of thinking as of Friday that Trey may slip towards maybe the 4th, 5th round because of the lack of power. And it's just such – power's a premium tool. It's what teams draft on a lot of times, and Trey doesn't have that right now. Now, he's only 21 years old, so we'll see. But that's a great spot for Trey, a great signing bonus for Trey, and really pumped for him that he does go in the third round. That is awesome, awesome stuff. I want to talk about a couple of his teammates here before we get to Leah Vann in 11 minutes, and we'll ask Leah about Trey Morgan. As of like the middle of March, I'm looking at LSU's team and I'm going, okay, you've got the best lineup going right now. They're just dominating people offensively. You've got a bullpen that looks pretty good at that point. You had a healthy Chase Shores. You had a healthy Garrett Edwards. And you were finding some other roles, but you looked like you had some depth in the bullpen, and you had the ace with Paul Skenes. But somebody's got to step up and be the number 2 guy. You've got to have a 1-2 punch. It's so crucial in the regional. It's so crucial in the super. It's so crucial in Omaha to get off to a good start and win those first 2 games. You win the first 2 games of a regional, you're in the driver's seat. You win the first 2 games of a super, you're going to Omaha. You win the first 2 games in Omaha, you're in the driver's seat to get to the championship series. That's kind of the way this thing looks. And so you're meandering along. And I all along thought Thatcher Hurd's the guy. He's got to step up. He's got to become the number 2. And we know that didn't happen. And Ty Floyd had his issues. But I will tell you this. As of May 1st of this year, which is not that far in the rearview mirror, I would not have told you that LSU had a pair of first-rounders at the top of the rotation. Would not have told you that. And Ty Floyd goes in the first round. That fired me up last night to see him. When you think about how to build a college baseball team, one of the first things you always point to is, hey, you can get a pair of first-rounders at the top of the rotation. Like, you can really do some damage. Hurston Waldrop, Brandon Strode at the top. That looks like a pair of first-rounders that Florida's got at the top. Look at those 2 guys at the top for Wake Forest. That looks like a pair of first-rounders at the top. LSU had a pair of first-rounders at the top. Ty Floyd goes with the 38th pick of the comp round to the Reds. $2.255 million slot for Ty Floyd. We'll see what he signs for, but it should be right around that with the Cincinnati Reds, who, oh, by the way, took Rhett Lauder earlier in the draft. But that was so awesome for Ty Floyd. And again, that was kind of my thoughts on Ty when this thing ended was you sign the highly touted high school kid out of Georgia. He becomes a nice bullpen piece for you as a freshman. He moves into the starting rotation as a sophomore. We know he lost his job there, but he did do that, and he started the biggest game LSU played all year, last year. The Saturday game of the Southern Miss Regional, he was the starter. And then you become a star as a junior. And it took him some time. But you look at what he did in the postseason, he was a star. And stars go in the first round. And that was so awesome to see. That's the trajectory of what a college career should look like. You look at some of these high schoolers with high upsides who might field calls in the 13th, 14th, 15th round as a high schooler, and they turn that 6-figure payday down. No, I'm not going to sign for $300,000. I'm going to go play in college. And you hope that that's the arc. Now, sometimes they show up in their Cruise. Rarely. Sometimes they show up in their Bregman. Sometimes they show up in their Matuk. But sometimes you just take the natural projection. Role player, move into a starting spot, become a star. And Floyd became a star and goes in the first round. Now, all that, and I just saw a cool tweet on the, I want to give attribution, but I don't know. I can. Evan Sachs. He just put it up there that you remember that Dylan Cruz's first home run was against Paul Skenes. Ty Floyd's first outing ever, the first batter he ever faced in college, was Paul Skenes at Air Force. He struck him out on 4 pitches. How about that? And that's the storybook arc that Ty Floyd took to the first round. Grant Taylor's is not that. Grant Taylor showed up as a freshman and played that Ty Floyd role. He was a key bullpen guy as a freshman. Big stuff, big potential. You feel like another year in the program, he becomes a number 2 starter, becomes a shutdown closer, is a huge piece to a great team, and then signs for a huge payday. Well, we know what happened with Grant Taylor. Elbow pops in a scrimmage in January, doesn't throw a pitch. And the fact of the matter is, with Grant, that the timing just wasn't going to work out for him here once that happened at that point of the calendar. Because as much as you want to say, well, look at Javen Coleman. He can come back middle of next year. He can really help the team. That's a lot to ask. To come back in 13 or 14 months from Tommy John surgery and be an impact guy. We know that Javen Coleman's velocity dipped a little bit. We know that he wasn't able to get deep into games. He was out there. He was giving everything he had. It was heroic that he was able to come back from the surgery and play any role on this team. And you would hope that Grant Taylor could do that. But the fact of the matter is, he might not have pitched next year. And at that point, that's your money time. And I say this, I said it on Friday, if you were listening. I'm out there in the fall, and I love to do it. It doesn't make me the coolest guy in town, but I like to watch the team play in the fall. And so do the scouts. And if you were out there in the fall and you watched, Grant Taylor just struck everybody out. 97 with the fastball. Slider was outstanding. He outperformed Skenes in the fall. Now, he would not have had the year Skenes had if healthy this year because that's superhuman. And he still had to work on the command. That was an issue for him last year, but the swing and miss was ridiculous. He was phenomenal in the fall. And the scouts were out there. And they trust the doctors with the Tommy John surgery. So Grant Taylor, here's his name called, 51st to the White Sox. That slot is about $1.7 million. And he may take a slight discount. He may not. But the fact is that he was picked, and that's great for Grant Taylor. I was excited for him. I know that we wear our purple and gold down here, and we're pulling for guys to go to LSU and to come back to LSU, and that's our main goal in the draft. But that was such a tough break for Grant. Can you imagine being part of this team, this roster? Preseason number 1, Cruz, Morgan, Thompson, White, Skenes, like the headliners on this team. And Grant Taylor's sitting there going, oh, my God, I'm going to be a big piece to an awesome team. My brother was that a couple of years ago on an Arkansas team that won the SEC and was one of the best teams in the country. I'm going to be a dude on this awesome team. And you're a couple of weeks out from 11,000 in the box, opening night, number 1 team in the country, elbow goes. Not going to throw a pitch. Like, that sucks. And I'm sure it was a difficult conversation for him. Say, hey, man, I came to LSU. I wanted to have a great college experience. I wanted to pitch in huge games on the SEC Network in Omaha. That's where I want to be. But you know what? The timing's just not going to work here because I can't come back full strength next spring, and that's money year anyway. He's a draft-eligible sophomore. It's time to go. And the phone rang. The White Sox made the call, made the pick, and good for Grant Taylor for signing for 1.7. Well, for being picked at a slot of 1.7 million. We'll get the numbers over time as that begins to go. But that was a really great night for Ty Floyd and for Grant Taylor last night. The other signee last night from LSU, Blake Mitchell, goes 8th overall to Kansas City. You know, you take these commitments 3 years, sometimes 4 years in advance. And sometimes they look foolish when things like this happen, but you don't know what's going to happen over the next 3 years. And Blake Mitchell blossomed into one of the best players in the country. Catchers that can hit, and specifically catchers that can hit left-handed, are like gold. LSU's got one in Brady Neal, who's actually playing very well in Cape Cod right now, but Blake Mitchell kind of grew into a monster and just wasn't going to get past many picks. Saw some mocks that had him in the 30s. I always thought it was closer to 20. Turns out it wasn't even close to 20. He goes 8th overall to the Kansas City Royals. Slot there is $5.98 million, so potentially he could get $6 million from Kansas City. I don't believe someone who's got a check for $6 million on their desk is in a real rush to get to Lockett Hall to take some classes in the basement over there. Now, I took some basement classes at Lockett. Psych 1001 was down there. Had some baseball players. Blake Dean was in my class for Psych 1001 down in Lockett Hall. I don't believe Blake Mitchell is going to make that excursion to Lockett for that 8:30 class on a Monday. He'll be signing and going to play some professional baseball, and that's what a lot of LSU players are planning on doing here as we move forward. So I'll continue to update the draft tracker in commercials and kind of get to some picks as they come. If you just missed it a little bit earlier, Trey Morgan goes off the board early in round 3 with the 88th pick in the MLB draft. So good news for Trey Morgan. To this point, as I continue to roll through, no selection of the highest profile signee still on the board for LSU, and that is Cam Johnson. Now, you can look at the slot values as they roll through, and I'll tell you where they are right now. The last pick in the draft was the 95th pick. That slot carries with it $700,000 signing bonus. But just because that's the slot doesn't mean that's what the paycheck is. Cam Johnson is not going to sign for 6 figures. However, there are a lot of teams that are going to have some leftover money that may be able to make a push for him later in the draft. So I'll talk about LSU's high school signees and where things stand with the signing class coming up a little bit later at 2 o'clock. Plus, LSU got a transfer portal edition that I want to talk about at 2 o'clock as well. But we'll take a timeout. We'll come back with Leah Vann of The Advocate. She covers the LSU baseball team. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $25,000 off new 22 Ram 1500 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2022 inventory, all with Bayou's 1 million mile warranty. The crew at Bayou Automotive is going to do right by you.
Follow us on Twitter at 1045ESPN to cast your vote in the Citizens Bank and Trust poll of the day. Vote daily inside Off the Bench, live at lunch, Hunt Palmer. And after further review, Citizens Bank and Trust brings you the poll of the day via Twitter at 1045ESPN.
The importance of doing this Fortified program and offering it to people down here is, number one, the only real chance you're going to get to do this is when you put on a new roof or build new. And through companies like HUDCO, who's kind of leading the way in this thing, it's going to offer the customers a huge advantage in the insurance market and the price of their insurance.
You know, we're not looking to make a fortune off fortifying. We're trying to give you a better product than our competitor at the moment. I'm trying to do something that he can. I'm trying to give you something better. So a lot of these insurance jobs, you're getting a re-roof, you're only paying your deductible. Let's sit down and talk about the Fortified and let's see what it does to your insurance premium. You're getting a steal.
Yeah.
You're getting a brand new roof and a Fortified certificate for your deductible, essentially.
Yeah.
I think we're rocking and rolling.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
On Tuesdays, Off the Bench. Break down a little LSU football cruising with some of the experts, plus another week closer to Saints camp. What storyline should you be watching? Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
I know how sports writer stuff goes. I was one of those in a previous life. Leah Vann's supposed to join us here, but Trey Morgan was just selected, so she's going to chat with Trey Morgan to write a story on that side of things. We understand, so she's going to chat with Trey, and we'll dive into a different part of the draft now here, and that is LSU's high school and junior college signees and what to expect today. I went through this a little bit in our first segment, but I will kind of lay it out again. Every pick in rounds 3 through 10, which is today, has a slot value assigned to it. That does not mean once you are selected there that that's the amount of money you get. The teams can choose to spend their draft pool wherever they want. That's why you see some seniors being picked here and there that are going to sign for significantly under the slot in the event that they take someone who's going to take over their slot somewhere else in the draft. And it's all about manipulating the money to make it work. So just because Cam Johnson is a potential first-round guy who could sign for the neighborhood of $3 million, gets picked in the 8th round with a slot of whatever, $250K, doesn't mean he's signing for $250K. It means that he has agreed to a number, and they'll float it out there, and it's going to be significantly over what that slot may be. They are into the 4th round now in the Major League Baseball draft. The 102nd selection was just made, and it was Andrew Pinckney, the stud outfielder from Alabama. The Nationals grabbed him, so like him and Dylan Cruz, two of the best outfielders in the Southeastern Conference in their 4 rounds of selections. But here's where LSU stands right now as far as their high school signees go. As I mentioned in the last segment, Blake Mitchell, the outfielder from the catcher from Texas, selected 8th overall. He'll sign for right around $6 million, I would think. But the rest of the class is still out there and has not been picked to this point. Cade Anderson, the left-handed pitcher from St. Paul's, who's coming off of an injury, has pulled his name out of the draft. He's going to come to LSU. That's great news for Jay Johnson and his program. Cam Johnson is the highest profile player in this class right now when you take Blake Mitchell off the board. Cam Johnson is a 6'4", big-time left-handed pitcher from IMG Academy over in Florida. He's up to 99 miles an hour with his fastball. He struggles with command a little bit, as an 18-year-old with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball may be prone to do. And he dealt with a little bit of tendonitis this year in his elbow, so he did not pitch a full season. However, he was able to go out there and either the area code games or a showcase, one of the two big-time high school events, and he looked very good in that. So it didn't appear that he was going to be pulled completely off of a lot of draft boards. However, his chances of going in the first round really took a hit because he didn't pitch some in this spring. He's still out there. I made a phone call today just to kind of check on how things sat with Cam Johnson. And I'll be quite honest with you, the answer that I got is not real juicy. I got 50-50. Now, I would have told you entering the draft that he was 95-5 signing. And I think that's kind of what LSU felt like when the draft started. As we sit here in the 4th round, you push it closer to 50-50. But that is not very useful to you, the listener. I know that. He might sign, he might not. That doesn't help you a lot. But I'll tell you that the odds have shifted towards college. I still believe there will be a team that comes along that has saved some money somewhere in their draft pool, and they'll select Cam Johnson at some point today. If he doesn't get picked today, you start to really think that there's a good chance he could get to LSU. If he is picked at any point today, don't look at the slot number assigned to that pick. You got to look at the team, where they are from a draft perspective, and say, okay, they've probably saved some money. They're going to draft him. No one is going to draft Cam Johnson today that doesn't believe they're going to sign him, because if you select a player in the draft and in the first 10 rounds and don't sign them, you lose that slot money from your draft pool. So Cam Johnson is the name to watch for LSU right now. Stephen Milam is the other guy that I told you about on Friday if you were listening to the show. He is a middle infielder from Las Cruces, New Mexico, who had kind of a second-roundish grade, but had a real strong commitment to LSU, and the feeling from LSU was that he was going to get to college. He's undersized at 5'8", but he's a switch hitter who can play in the middle of the infield. And his bat is really, really good. He's got a good, short, flat swing. He does hit the ball out of the ballpark at the high school level. I don't know how much pop you can expect at college, but some. That's a guy that I think is a big piece to this class for LSU, because I don't love the talent pool in the middle infield right now. There's depth there. I just don't see the high ceiling guys in the middle infield for LSU right now. You go into the transfer portal, you pick up a middle infielder from South Carolina. He's hit 2 home runs in 2 years. He hit 240 this year. I'm not over the moon with that pickup. Ben DePolt's a utility guy. Gavin Guidry might be a pitcher. So you start to look through some of these guys. I would really like Stephen Milam to get to campus, and there's a good chance of that at this point. The bigger risk in this class is probably Ashton Larson, the outfielder from Overland Park, Kansas. I did not feel great about him getting to campus. I still don't feel great about him getting to campus. That's a name that I expect to see off the board in the next hour. If he's not, and he doesn't get picked today, you start to look towards Baton Rouge. Today is the day. Today is LSU taking on a lot, because this is the day where your class can get picked apart or can remain intact. Tomorrow, it's possible. There are Carter Youngs out there. If you remember that story about the Vanderbilt shortstop last year, LSU got the commitment from him. He got drafted in like the 18th round by the Orioles, who had the biggest draft pool in the country, and they found an extra $1 million to give him to sign him away. That does happen on day 3. It's just more likely to happen on day 2. So those are the 2 guys. Jake Brown is a left-handed pitcher from Sulphur. I don't think there's a huge draft risk there, but you never know. He's a left-handed pitcher, and he's a young guy with a good arm, and sometimes those guys can come off the board. So those are the guys that you're really looking at today, and I'll continue to follow the draft and see if somebody would come off the board during our show today. The only guy with LSU ties that has been drafted today is Trey Morgan. Hunter Owen, left-hander from Vanderbilt, just went in the 4th round as I scroll through. And I don't see anyone else from LSU to this point. No. So they are in the 4th round. They have finished round 3, 2 minutes between picks. It is fast-moving today, and we'll get you caught up on all things LSU as they continue to develop throughout the next hour and 20 minutes or so. I want to talk in hour number 2 a little bit about Dylan Crews and kind of his legacy now that it's put to bed. I want to talk about LSU's football and who they're sending to SEC Media Days. That's coming up here in a few minutes, but we'll close out hour number 1 next with Leah Vann. She just chatted with Trey Morgan as he was taken off the board 88th to the Tampa Bay Rays, and she's covered this team all season long. So we'll chat with Leah next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer. In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you. Our mobile banking app is a smart way to manage your money and time. Gulf Coast Bank and Trust, the bank that cares about you.
Bayou Ford has the new inventory to get you in a new Ford truck or SUV today, or customize your next vehicle just the way you want it. All new Bayou Ford vehicles come with a 1 million mile powertrain warranty. The crew at Bayou Ford is going to do right by you.
The world's leaders in obesity research, obesity medicine, and obesity science are right here.
We're doing something that no one's ever done, or trying to answer a question that no one's ever asked before.
Pennington is a real jewel when it comes to research.
We are finding the solutions to the world's worst chronic disease, which is obesity. Louisiana needs Pennington Biomedical.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Bayou Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram has $25,000 off new 22 Ram 1500 SCA trucks and incredible deals on all remaining 2020.
It's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR presented by Relief Windows. We'll recap rounds 1 and 2 of the Major League Draft. Any surprises? Where did Cruz and Skenes go? We'll know. Join us 3 to 6, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Major League Baseball draft moving right along. They are in the 4th round right now. They'll go through round 10 today. LSU has been represented in the 3rd round. Trey Morgan pulled off the board at number 88 to Tampa Bay. Leah Vann just talked to Trey Morgan, who was taking the 88 selection. She joins us now via the Gym's Firearms Hotline. Leah, thanks for the time. How are you?
Busy. How are you?
I'm good. I'm imagining that Trey was a pretty happy dude when you just talked to him.
Yeah. We all love Trey, and we know that he's an enthusiastic guy. He seemed actually a little bit more speechless than I anticipated. But yeah, he was very excited. He said he kind of learned this morning, got a call that, he would go today. Obviously, that could mean anything, but he thought it would be a little later. And then about 6 picks before, he got another call from his advisor who said, yeah, you're going to Tampa. So he was just kind of sitting there and waiting for his name to be called. And then he was like, oh, my name was called, and I got chills. So very happy, Trey Morgan, and obviously happy for his family and all that.
You obviously covered this team start to finish, and you get to know the players, and you obviously watch them day in and day out. For you as a sports watcher and a sports writer, was it more enjoyable to watch the excellence on the field or to tell the stories about the guys off the field?
Yeah, I think it was to tell the stories off the field, right? I think it's been kind of gratifying throughout this entire draft process is you're seeing the same stories about Paul Skenes, about Dylan Cruz, about Trey Morgan, about all those guys that I largely wrote at the beginning of the season, or even last year. There, I think Dylan's work with the Families Helping Families nonprofit organization has been widely publicized recently, and I wrote that story last year. So it's kind of cool how all the stuff that we all know here locally, the stories that I've got to know why Paul Skenes ended up at Air Force and why he ended up coming to LSU and how he changed his pitching and here at LSU, and all of that has been kind of widely, put on the national level at this point in time. But yeah, I mean, it's more fun for me getting to talk to the guys at Air Force about what Paul was like and, his impact and what it was like for him to leave the Air Force Academy. And it was also getting that journey through Dylan Cruz's life and his beginning in baseball back in Orlando. Those were kind of like the top memories for me as a reporter.
I was interested to see Jordan Thompson in the shot last night in Paul Skenes, whatever living room he was in. You saw all the Air Force guys that were there, and Jordan was there. Did that surprise you to see him there?
No, because I mean, my ideal was that like they're all from California, so they're all home right now, and I don't remember specifically geographically how far Jordan is from Paul Skenes, because I think Paul Skenes is more closer to the LA area. Please forgive me if I'm wrong on that. But I know that Jordan is from San Diego area. Right. But a lot of these guys are really close to Paul, or have like said that he kind of feels like their best friend. And Thatcher for sure, like I knew would be there. But yeah, Jordan, I wasn't like super expecting, but I also wasn't surprised since he is a California guy.
This was such a meteoric rise for Paul Skenes, from a good player for Air Force to all of a sudden the most dominant pitcher in the country in the first pick in the draft. What has been your view of this, I guess technically kind of a 6-month journey for him?
Yeah, I think it's been interesting because I remember him hitting home runs in fall ball.
Yeah.
Like I told like Kennedy Landry this yesterday. I was like, I'm gonna tell my kids that I saw Paul Skenes hit home runs probably for like the last time ever in his career, right? But he largely credits the fact that he was able to focus on pitching the reason why he was so elite this year, because it made his body healthier. And still there were people last night asking like, are you going to hit in the major leagues? And he was kind of like, I don't know. But, I think obviously the work that he did with Wes Johnson, and also he's a very detail oriented, independent thinker, somebody who does a lot of research on his own. And I think that is very telling of who he is and how he developed even throughout the season. I remember the draft coverage last night was kind of talking about his curveball and his slider, and how the slider, while he usually uses the sweeping slider, has also used the gyro slider a little bit toward the end of the season. And I think a lot of, what became Paul Skenes as we know him has developed since he arrived at LSU, even though the foundation of who he was as a person off the field and also like just as an athlete was, kind of developed at Air Force.
A lot was made of this decision to start Paul Skenes against Tulane in the regional opener. And in discussions later on, Jay said, I think a lot of people just underestimate Ty Floyd. Hand up, I underestimated Ty Floyd really almost until the end. The Reds obviously did, and they took him in the first round. I would have never said that as of March. How surprised were you at kind of the end of the season for Ty and to see him go in the compensatory round in the first?
I think it was a little bit surprising, but I also think, and I try to tell people this throughout the season, that your view of Ty Floyd is being measured by Paul Skenes on the first day, which is just not, it's just like not reasonable. You know what I'm saying? Like when you see the dominance that Paul Skenes like displays and then you follow that up, it's kind of hard to, it's kind of hard to compare when he really is and has always been a very talented pitcher. And, he was a 3rd round guy coming out of high school, projected largely like before the end of his high school season. I was reading that he, was predicted to go in the 3rd round, but then his high school season got cut short because of COVID. And then, you kind of, the scouts kind of don't bet on you as much. But, so he was also kind of a guy that maybe would not have made it to campus. And I know that his fastball has always been this plus pitch. And, we saw him like pitch a complete game this year. We saw him, really dominate at times in the College World Series. Obviously that 17 strikeout game probably helped him tremendously, and playing in a bigger ballpark, I think gives us a better picture of the type of pitcher he's going to be in the major leagues someday. So I wasn't surprised when he started to jump up on the draft boards, but certainly the first round, I think that speaks to, how like, I was like, wanted to tweet out that like some people in my mentions wanted Ty Floyd to move to the bullpen in the middle of the season. And he's always been talented, but playing in the SEC, full of home run hitters, small ballparks, it's really hard to be a pitcher in the SEC. And even some of the most elite pitchers like Jackson Wiggins, who didn't even play this year, right, because of Tommy John. I mean, he went in the draft yesterday too. And, I wouldn't say that his numbers were like Paul Skenes either, but he's still an elite pitcher. There's plenty of elite pitchers that don't have Paul Skenes numbers. And I think that people are going to have to kind of reframe their minds going into next year and the year after, because what we saw out of Paul Skenes is extremely rare, and you just can't measure everybody else by that measuring stick.
Now that the dust has settled on this thing, and we'll see kind of how guys get drafted in the next couple of days, but the championship series is in the championship season's in the rearview mirror. As a storyteller and as a beat reporter, what will you remember about this 6-month run here with this baseball team?
It's really hard.
Yeah.
I think I think it was kind of, I think there are a lot of really cool things. I think the Rhett Lauder versus Paul Skenes game was kind of this epic showdown in Omaha. I almost felt like it was a national championship at the time, because the press box, the tension in it. I mean, we're always taught to not audibly shout or anything and not cheer in the press box, but there were some like large gasps and like, oh my gods, like as we were watching that game, because it was so intense and so close the entire time, and seeing these two elite first round pitchers kind of, duel it out. I think that was kind of the biggest like overall memory. But then I think about how this team was number one to begin with, and I was constantly getting peppered with questions like, are they overrated? They bought their team, all the stuff. But then, they still had to really fight to get to what they wanted. And I think that says a lot about college baseball. Having to play teams like Wake Forest and Florida and Tennessee on the way, I think. And then, even the 2 series losses back in May to Mississippi State and Auburn, like this team, I think
Leah,
the fight.
I hate to cut you. I got a hard break. I apologize. That's too big a question, but thanks for your time, Leah.
Yeah, sorry. Bye.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Oh, hey, what's up? It's Big D and Bubba, 100.7 The Tiger Morning Show. We'd love for you to join us every weekday, 4 a.m. till 9 a.m.
Yeah, everything you want in a show. Country music. We got laughs. We got celebrity in-studio guests. We just need you.
Join us every weekday morning, 4 a.m. to 9 a.m., right where it all started.
That's right. Louisiana's country station, 100.7 The Tiger.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals, but many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
All right, let's say ah.
Where'd my spotlight go?
Super weird, but we can take care of it.
Get in and get better at Patient Plus.
This is SportsCenter.
I'm Christine Lisi. MLB Network analyst Sean Casey, hired as the Yankees' new hitting coach. New York's got the third worst batting average in baseball, .231. A former Northwestern football player who came forward with allegations of widespread hazing within the program spoke with University President Michael Schill yesterday about the hazing he witnessed and experienced. Told ESPN's Adam Rittenberg Coach Pat Fitzgerald absolutely knew about the hazing. Fitzgerald said Friday he had no knowledge of it. Schill is considering harsher discipline than Fitzgerald's 2-week suspension. ESPN college football insider Pete Thamel.
The school has to balance a coach with a great reputation who is the most transformative figure in its athletic department's history against, the accusations of this whistleblower and the findings of hazing, and determine how responsible Pat Fitzgerald should be for these things having happened in his program.
Pete Thamel on Greeny. American Christopher Eubanks making his Wimbledon debut. The 27-year-old upset men's 5 seed Stefanos Tsitsipas and advanced to the quarterfinals at the All England Club.
Do you own or rent your home? Sure you do. Fortunately, Geico makes it easy to bundle your home and car insurance. It's a good thing, too, because having a home is hard work. Go to geico.com, get a quote, and see how much you could save. Geico.com. Easy.
Now, Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Holding down the middle of the day. Live from the Mercedes-Benz of Baton Rouge Studios. This is Hunt Palmer.
Hour number 2 on a Monday. Hunt Palmer Show, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Thanks for hanging out with us to start your work week. Major League Draft is rolling. That's all we talked about in hour number 1. Thanks to Leah Vann for stopping by and chatting about the team that she has covered all year that is now starting to realize its professional potential. The college guys are flying off the board here in round 4. The Cubs took Will Sanders, big talented right-hander from South Carolina. Tanner Hall, who's a Baton Rouge area product, up at Southern Miss, went in the 4th round to the Minnesota Twins. Calvin Harris, the Ole Miss catcher, was with the next pick. Maui Ahuna, the Tennessee shortstop, was the next pick. I just feel like I know all these guys that are flying off the board. Hunter Haas, the Texas A&M shortstop, goes with the 4th pick. And as I continue to scroll through, there's Quinn Matthews, Stanford left-hander, in the 4th round as well. Just a lot of guys that we're pretty familiar with, having tracked this college baseball season as closely as we did. One name that has not been called to this point is the one that we're all kind of looking for here, and the one that I think there's a lot of anticipation around, and that, of course, is Cam Johnson, the big left-hander from IMG Academy that's part of LSU's class. They are in the compensatory portion of the 4th round. He has not been selected to this point. But I want to talk about a guy who did get picked last night with the 2nd pick in the draft. And to do that, which kind of puts a bow on Dylan Cruz's career here in Baton Rouge, I wanted to go back to literally January of 2022. January of 2022, before they threw a single pitch in Dylan Cruz's sophomore year. Musso and I sat on this exact set, and just for an hour, we talked about the 2022 Tigers. It was Jay Johnson's first year, and we were going to talk about it. And we went through position by position. We went through the pitching staff, and I get a lot of stuff wrong. I think pretty famously here, I told you that I thought that LSU would get beat in a series at Ole Miss this year. I miss way more than I hit. But I felt a certain way about Dylan Crews before a single pitch was thrown in his sophomore year, and this is what I said in January of 2022. I don't put this lightly. I don't mean to use hyperbole here. I'm being dead 100% serious. He could be the best hitter that's ever played here. I did not see Todd Walker. I saw the end of Furness, Cressy, all those guys. I mean, we know the list. He could be the best one ever. That talent. I mean, when I go out there in the fall and I watch him turn around a 96-mile-an-hour fastball and hit a line drive home run well over the right center field wall of the opposite field. That's not normal. That he is, and he could be the first pick in the draft when it's his time in a couple of years. He could be the best hitter that's ever played here. I really believe that. I think the case is closed. He wasn't the first pick in the draft. I missed there. But I think he's the best player that's ever played at LSU. And I've said that a lot over the last 2 years, and I don't mean to use hyperbole. A lot of times in this business, you can be hyperbolic. You can be a prisoner of the moment. I really tried to soak this in and analyze things, and I'll be up front. I did not see Joey Bell at LSU, not one pitch. I did not see Todd Walker at LSU, not one pitch. I saw some of Furness, as I said. I saw a lot of Cressy. I saw all of Bregman. Crews is the best. And last night was the end of the accolades. You go on and do what you're going to do in professional baseball, but what he did in his time in Baton Rouge, to me, is the greatest ever. Golden Spikes Award, only offensive player in the history of the school to win it. He hit .426 this year. That's the second highest in LSU history behind Ray Frimes at .431. His batting average for his career was .380. He never hit below .365. He's got the second highest batting average in the history of the school. He got on base for 3 years at a .498 clip. I don't have on-base stuff for Furness or Walker, but .498 is obscene. He saw guys every single weekend that were throwing upwards of 95 miles an hour. Every weekend in the league. Walker and Furness did not see that as routinely. He got on base half the time for 3 years. He hit 58 home runs at LSU. He had 184 runs driven in. He was a second pick in the draft. He won the Golden Spikes. He was a two-time All-American. He was a two-time SEC Player of the Year. That's the only time that's ever been done since the league started awarding the honor. I've got the numbers to line him up against Todd Walker. Todd Walker's career average was 16 points higher. He hit .396. Crews out-homered him 58-52. Walker drove in 60 more runs over his 3-year career. Both guys were National Freshman of the Year. In Walker's last year as a junior, he hit .393 with 18 homers. Crews bested that in both categories. And Walker was the 7th overall pick. Walker's really the only comp as far as projectability to the next level in professional baseball. We know that Furness played 4 years and then went to med school. Now, Furness's career numbers are better than Cruz's. He played 4 years with electric bats. He did win the Dick Hauser Award, which is what Skenes won this year. Furness left as the SEC's all-time leader in hits, home runs, RBI, doubles, total bases. He was a star. There's no question about it. Furness's career average was .371. Cruz's was 9 points higher. You start to get to home runs. Furness hit 80 in 4 years. Crews hit 58. It's theoretical that Crews could have come back and hit 22 more, but can't tack that on. Furness drove in 308 runs. That's 120 more than Crews did. Furness's last year as a senior, he hit .403. We know this year that Crews hit .426. That's basically the discussion. You could toss Bregman in there if you wanted to. You could toss Joey Bell in there if you wanted to. You could toss Cressy in there if you wanted to. But to me, it's Walker, Furness, and Crews. And I think it's Crews. I think in this era, hitting is more difficult. They helped out since 2013 with the dead BB core bats and the balls. They've juiced the balls. I think everybody's fine with admitting that. And that certainly helps. But Cruz's consistency was just otherworldly. It wasn't like Wyatt Langford. Wyatt Langford was a nobody as a freshman. And he developed into one of the best players in the country. Dylan Cruz just showed up and was one of the best players in the country. As a freshman, he hit .362 with 18 homers. As a sophomore, he hit .349 with 22 homers. As a junior, he hit .426 with 18 homers. He got on base in every game for a season. Do you know how hard that is? One day you show up at the ballpark, you're fighting a stomach bug, guy's got a nasty slider, and you go 0 for 4. You strike out, hit a couple ground balls to the second baseman, and pop one up. You just call it a day. One time. One midweek game. You're just not into it, and you don't get on. Just missed a couple. Not once did that happen with Cruz. He got on base every game for a season. And he had a flair for the dramatic, too. You remember the last at bat at the box? I tweeted out a video of my vantage point of it last night. But he comes up with a couple guys on base and just rips it into left field for a 2-run double. Everyone in the park knew it was his last at bat, and he comes up with that. Then in Omaha, the team's got a huge lead. It's the 8th inning. You think this is it for Cruz. And he hammers it in the gap for a triple. And then LSU bats around, so he gets another opportunity to hit when we thought that was going to be his last at bat, and he rips another single. What a treat it was to watch that guy for 3 years. And I think it was just so obvious right when he showed up. You know, this time 3 years ago, Dylan Cruz made an announcement he was pulling his name out of the big league draft. And we look at these signees, and you go to the Perfect Game profile, and you read scouting reports, and you hear about what some of these high schoolers could be when it's their time. And sometimes they live up to it, and a lot of times they don't. You want to talk about a guy that was pumped up, showed up, and just lit it up for 3 years, Dylan Cruz. To me, better than the 2-time All-American Todd Walker, who was National Freshman of the Year. Better than the 98 Dick Hauser winner, who finished with the SEC's all-time lead in hits, home runs, RBI, doubles, and total bases. The greatest player who's ever played at LSU is Dylan Cruz. And last night, he punctuated that by being the second pick in the draft. Walker went 7th. Furness went in the 4th round. And maybe numbers was a factor in it. But it doesn't matter. He's the second pick in the draft, and I think he will be in Washington, D.C. in relatively short order. That would make a lot of sense. Has anyone gotten to the D.C. Dylan Cruz District of Columbia thing? Is that already? Are we printing the shirts here? Somebody's got to get on that. D.C. Dylan Cruz. He's going to be the next face of that team. And it was Ryan Zimmerman for a long while, and Steven Strasburg had his time. Anthony Rendon, Juan Soto. It's going to be Cruz's team here pretty quickly. And that's an exciting thing. What a treat it was to watch that guy play for 3 years. I think he's the GOAT. When we come back, we'll switch gears over to football a little bit. I'll continue to monitor the draft. If anything happens from an LSU perspective, we'll let you know. But some really encouraging news, in my opinion, from LSU yesterday. We'll get to that next.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer. Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hello, Samantha, dear, I hope you're feeling fine. And it won't be long until I'm with you all the time. But until then, I spend my money up right down on my last dime. Come on, in Baton Rouge. I'm ready, what you put me on through. Gotta send my love down to
There it is, the extra mile. on the border of expected and extraordinary for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps are held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985-206-9096. Learn the game to love the game.
I've been doing business with Luba for 25 years. They're dependable, trustworthy. It's just the attention to detail with our clients.
Our folks have years and years of experience. They're highly trained professionals. But many companies have that asset. What I'd like to think makes Luba a bit different is that we use those talents in a way that truly is dedicated to serving the needs of the folks who depend on us.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
Gulf Coast Bank and Trust is giving our customers the power to bank anywhere, anytime during this challenging event. And we're right there with you.
On Tuesdays, Off the Bench. Break down a little LSU football cruising with some of the experts, plus another week closer to Saints Camp. What storyline should you be watching? Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
104.5 ESPN is giving you the opportunity to win $2,000 a day with our 2K a day summer cash giveaway. Listen for us to give a keyword every day, then head to 1045ESPN.com and enter it on the 2K a day contest page. Everyone who enters even one keyword the entire week will also be entered to win a $500 local cash prize. The 104.5 ESPN 2K a day summer cash giveaway presented by Citizens Bank and Trust. I think good news for LSU football yesterday. It was announced that next week in SEC Media Days, Jaden Daniels, Josh Williams, and Mekhi Wingo will represent LSU. We know what Media Days is. Big circus this year. It's in Nashville. We're going to send the morning show guys. We're going to send Matt. It'll be a content bonanza next week. And I think a lot of the personality is kind of gone from the league. I love Spurrier. Les was always good for a one-liner. Bielema was great in his time at the podium. You've got a lot of more buttoned up or robotic or even boring guys, I think, now in the league. I'm not, lining up to hear what Billy Napier has to say. I'm not super enthralled by Kirby Smart. I don't get the sense that Hugh Freeze is a guy that I want to sit and listen to very long. Clark Lee, what are you going to get out of that? Sam Pittman's probably a guy you'd want to sit around and get a beer with. Is he going to crack me up at the stand or say something super noteworthy? Probably not. So I miss a little bit of that. But I do think it's important that LSU is sending its quarterback this year. That doesn't happen every year. Burrow went in 19, coming off the 18 season, and we certainly didn't know what we were in for. He said that he thought LSU could have the best offense in the country. I think a lot of people definitely rolled their eyes at that comment. Well, there it was. And then Zach Mettenberger went his junior year after a so-so second year. And maybe it was his senior year. He played his senior year here, the Butler year in Georgia. But a lot of times LSU does not send its quarterback. Etling didn't go. Brandon Harris didn't go. But I think it's good that the quarterback will represent LSU. I think it's good that LSU returns a guy that had produced a ton. And we'll talk a ton between now and Labor Day about Jaden Daniels and his performance at quarterback for LSU. We will certainly dissect it. Everybody will have their opinion. And I think it's fairly polarizing around here. There are a lot of people that feel like it's awesome to have a guy who runs like that at quarterback. He was super productive. LSU won a lot of games. Of course, you beat Alabama. Like, all that stuff is positive. But there is another subset of LSU fans say holds the ball too long, won't push it down the field, doesn't give the receivers a chance, depends on his legs too much, all that kind of stuff. And the truth is somewhere in the middle. I lean pretty heavily towards he's a really good player. But I admit readily that there are times where I wish he would let it go a little bit. But you can't debate whether or not he was productive last year. That's off the table. He was. He led the team in rushing. He made some huge plays. The offense hummed pretty well. It was a top 35 offense in the country. And he was a huge part of that. And I feel really, really good about LSU's quarterback situation with Jaden Daniels this season. I think that gives LSU a great chance to go out there and win every single game. I feel as good about LSU entering the season at quarterback as I have in a really, really long time. And we were talking about Dylan Cruz in the last segment and something that I got right 2 years in advance. I also said, filling in for, I think the guys on Sports Today maybe back in the day, that coming off of Burrow's 18 season, I felt as good about LSU's quarterback spot as I had in over a decade. Yeah, Mettenberger lit it up in 13, but in 12, he was pretty pedestrian. Yeah, Flynn had an awesome year in 7. He sat on the bench in 6. Yeah, Jamarcus was fantastic his junior year. He had to have Marcus Randall come bail him out in the swamp early in his career. Like, those guys exploded their final year. Burrow was a slow build, and he was pretty good. Now, we're grading on a low bar with some of the seasons that LSU had passing the football. But I felt great about LSU with Joe Burrow entering 19. Now, you could say I was just dead wrong because it was the greatest season anybody's ever seen, and I certainly didn't call for that. But I feel great about Jaden Daniels being the quarterback of the team, and I feel really good that the program trusts him to go to media days and represent it. Josh Williams is a heck of a representative of LSU. We've had him on this show. You've seen him in press conferences. He's a buttoned-up kid, and he's going to do a great job, and he's a solid running back. Mekhi Wingo has All-American potential and maybe a star on the field. Those two guys don't play quarterback. Those two guys are not going to have the ball every play of LSU's offensive possession. That's the position that makes it go. You know that. I'm not telling you anything new. But the fact is that LSU sends a lot more cornerbacks and offensive linemen and linebackers than they do quarterbacks to this thing. And you don't get any points on the day before Labor Day, Sunday night, because your quarterback went to Nashville to answer some questions. I'm just saying, I like the fact that it's happening. I like the fact that the quarterback is a representative. Everybody's been so coached on how to handle themselves in this situation that a lot of times the content can get a little bit dull. But I just like the fact that LSU's quarterback's going to represent them. That's a storyline I'm going to pull out of it before anybody asks a question or anybody makes a comment or anything happens up in Nashville. We'll dive into what the offense is going to look like. That's an August conversation, and we'll do a lot of it next week, too, as we get into a lot of football. Josh Williams will represent the running backs in the program, and Mekhi Wingo will represent the defensive linemen in the program. Quarterback's the one that matters. I do want to spend a little bit of time on the other two guys, though. Josh Williams right now is the most proven back at LSU that you've got. Noah Cain had a nice career at Penn State, and obviously Diggs was really good at Notre Dame, and I think he'll be the bell cow back on this team. But Williams is the guy who's done the most in purple and gold. I know Hester loves him. I know he's going to get what's blocked, and they trust him in pass protection. They trust him to know where to be. But he's a guy that I think is going to have his production go down a little bit this year because of the addition of Logan Diggs. Wingo, I think, is getting a huge gift in his last season because Jaquelin Roy was good last year. He might have a monster next to him this year. And if what Brian Kelly said to the media is correct, and that teams are going to have to start their protection and their run blocking issues with Smith, well, you put that much focus on one guy, the guy next to him, going to start eating. And that's the hope for Mekhi Wingo this year. He was a guy that you signed out of Missouri who was a freshman all-conference player, and you thought this guy could be a pretty solid player for you. Could be a rotational piece, a depth piece on the defensive front. And he was much more than that last year. And I think he might even do more this year because of the guy standing next to him in Mason Smith. I think all focus is on Smith. Wingo may be the guy who has more production. Because if you do have to focus your offensive line approach around the big guy wearing 0, that frees up Mekhi Wingo to do some work. And I don't know that was necessarily the case all of last year. Jaquelin Roy was a good player. You certainly had to account for him. But I think Wingo may have been the one that made you think more. That's probably not the case this year. I certainly hope Mason Smith is able to live up to what he's been built up to be. I'm not a talent evaluator. I'm not a scout. I'm not a doctor either to look at his knee. But all reports are that Mason Smith is ready to roll, and that is good news for Mekhi Wingo. I'm sure we'll talk about that a ton next week when it's LSU's turn at SEC Media Days. Again, if you just jumping in the car and missed this, Jaden Daniels, Josh Williams, and Mekhi Wingo will be LSU's representatives in Nashville. Our representatives in Nashville will be T-Bob Hebert, Jacob Hester, and Matt Moscona. They'll be there for the morning show and the afternoon drive. We'll talk a ton of football tomorrow. I put out a tweet yesterday. I was like, hey, where are you on this Major League Baseball draft? Are you thinking, man, I'm always in on the draft and I can't wait to watch? I love the draft. Hey, this is Screws. Second time I've morphed a name. Cruz, Skenes, and Jay Johnson on the desk, like I'm all in on this draft. Or it's football season. I got plenty of votes for it's football season. I haven't quite been willing to go there just yet, but as of next week, we'll start talking about every single team in the Southeastern Conference. It is just about football season, and Media Days is the unofficial kickoff of football season, and we're fired up to send some folks up there. Thanks to the folks at Hudco for making that happen. When we come back, we'll refocus back on the Major League Baseball draft. I got to do what I've done in every commercial break thus far and check out what's going on in the draft. I'll update you if anything has happened on the LSU side of things, either from the roster or the signing class. We'll do that next on the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
LWCC is Louisiana Loyal. They're elevating and celebrating champions of Louisiana. We've been telling you about Corey Barr. Corey has grown national acclaim in the culinary world. He beat Bobby Flay. He won Chopped. He's been Food Network's new star. And that's all great from a national perspective. But what's important to Corey is home. And home is Monroe, Louisiana. That's where Corey operates his 3 businesses, and he is a proud Louisianan and will tell anyone, even on a national stage, that he is just that. And that's why he's a champion of Louisiana. If you know of a champion of Louisiana, go to lwcc.com/champions. You can look at all the past champions of Louisiana that we've told you about. You can also learn about Corey Barr, and you can nominate a champion of Louisiana yourself. Maybe it's a person like Corey Barr. Maybe it's a nonprofit. Maybe it's a business that's doing great philanthropic work like Corey is in our state. We'll tell their story. Go to lwcc.com/champions and nominate a champion like Corey Barr, who is a champion of Louisiana.
In times of need, get a full list of phone numbers, websites, and other important emergency information on the Demco Stormwatch page at 1045ESPN.com.
This summer, retirement is a state of mind. Whether it's a mid-morning activity or an early bird special, grab a Coors Light and chill like you're retired.
It was a humid day. Barefoot children play, looking for that summer shade. Time just slips away. Oh, Louisiana, some kind of hold on me. Like cypress stumps, your roots are planted deep inside of me.
The best kept secret in town is out. Discover Tallulah at the Renaissance Hotel on Bluebonnet.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
There it is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected, supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Monday's AFR presented by Relief Windows. We'll recap rounds 1 and 2 of the Major League Draft. Any surprises? Where did Cruz and Skenes go? We'll know. Join us 3 to 6, 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
This is Hunt Palmer on 1045 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Rolling through the 5th round in the Major League Baseball draft. They'll roll through the 10th round today, and then they'll finish things up tomorrow with a lot more rapid fire. But today is the day that means the most to LSU's baseball program moving forward. Last night was about the past and about the great players and elevating the brand of LSU with the first 2 picks in the draft, first time that's ever happened in the history of the sport. Paul Skenes goes first to Pittsburgh. Dylan Cruz goes second to Washington. Then you saw Ty Floyd go 38th and Grant Taylor go 51st. So great news for those guys. And only one high school signee was drafted off of LSU's signing class last night. That was Blake Mitchell, the catcher from Texas. He went to the Royals at 8th overall for a slot bonus near $6 million. But no one else from LSU's signing class has been picked to this point. They have made 163 picks in this draft. The guy that everyone is looking for at this point is Cam Johnson. And if you've been listening for an hour and a half, I certainly appreciate it, but we are rehashing a little bit of what we did in hour number 2. It's kind of my plan today as the draft moved forward to kind of react to things that have happened. The only thing that's happened on LSU's front today was the pick of Trey Morgan, 88th overall in the 3rd round to the Tampa Bay Rays. But Cam Johnson is a big left-hander from IMG Academy. He throws near 100 miles an hour and was thought to be a first-round talent as of February of this year. However, he had some tendonitis in his elbow. He didn't pitch as much this spring. He did have a good outing in a showcase, but that was really the majority of his spring. And the thought was that he was not going to be a first-rounder because of lack of innings in the spring. But you definitely thought, or I did, that he would sign. And that possibility still very much exists. Yes, the slot values are significantly diminished in the 5th round as opposed to the 1st round. But that doesn't mean that teams are married to that slot value. You sign a couple of seniors for cheap, you get a couple guys under slot, you can free up $1 million pretty quickly and dump that on a 7th round pick or a 14th round pick. That happens every year. So certainly not out of the woods at this point because the slot values are a little bit down. But Cam Johnson is the guy we have our eyes on, and I personally am checking out Stephen Milan as well. That's a switch-hitting infielder from Las Cruces, New Mexico, who kind of profiles right around this spot. I think the ceiling was up towards the 3rd round. We're now in the 5th. That's a guy that you could see, but I don't expect to see Stephen Milam's name called today. There is significant belief within the LSU baseball program that Milam is going to show up and should be a pretty quick contributor in the middle infield. I think there was a lot of doubt yesterday that Cam Johnson would be that guy, but as I mentioned in the first hour, I made a phone call about Cam Johnson today, and it was closer to 50-50 at this point. I realize 50-50 gives you no useful information. That means he might sign. That means he might come to school. There's not a lot there, but I will say it was probably closer to 95-5 in my eyes 24 hours ago, and here we sit without his name being called to this point. Ashton Larson, another LSU signee, an outfielder from the Midwest in Overland Park, Kansas, who is a mega talent, left-handed hitter, a lot of speed, good athlete. That's a guy that we thought would be called by this point, so we'll see whether or not that happens. It's pretty good news to this point for LSU, but you were a long, long way from being out of the woods with this Major League Baseball draft. But I'll continue to track it in the commercial breaks. I'll do it here in 5 minutes, and we'll see if anything new has happened. But to this point, the only drafted player that's been an LSU tie has been Trey Morgan to this point. So I think that's good news for Jay Johnson. You're looking forward, hopefully, maybe Jordan Thompson would be next to go in the Major League Baseball draft. That certainly would be my thought, and we're right around the time where I think it makes a lot of sense to take Jordan Thompson. On the other side of things, good news coming into the program, LSU got a transfer portal ad over the weekend, and I think it's a pretty important one. It's a great name at the very least. Gage Jump joins the LSU baseball program. He is a left-handed pitcher from Aliso, California. He just finished his 2nd season at UCLA. He came in the same signing class as Thatcher Hurd, and they were kind of the highest profile recruits that UCLA brought in that signing class, and now both of them will be playing for LSU. Gage Jump is coming off of Tommy John surgery. He did not pitch this past season. He made 7 appearances as a true freshman in 2022 on that team that Thatcher Hurd was on. He made 3 starts. He had 2 saves back in 2022. He struck out 22 hitters over 16 and a third innings, and his batting average against was just 172. He was 2nd on the team in strikeouts per 9. He was 2nd on the team in hits per 9 allowed and batting average allowed, but he is coming off of Tommy John surgery, so there's not a lot of recent information on him. But I will tell you this. I went back and looked at a little film of him, made a couple phone calls. This is a guy that's got big-time talent. I mean, this could be a top 5 round draft pick as of next year if he comes in and plays pretty well. And don't minimize at all the impact that Thatcher Hurd had here and him leaving UCLA to come to LSU. If you've heard Thatcher Hurd talk a lot over the last year, he's a soft-spoken guy, but he'll tell you what he thinks. And he just said, look, I just wanted to come see this SEC action and see what this is all about, and it was the best decision I ever made. UCLA's got a proud baseball program. John Savage is a heck of a coach, and he develops pitchers really, really well. But they play in front of 5 people. Like, your crowds are 190, 260 people at Jackie Robinson Ballpark. I remember distinctly when LSU went out there for the 2010 regional. Jacques Doucet from Channel 9 was out there covering the regional, and his entire Thursday night package was on the facility and how there's like a farmer's market in the outfield and there's porta potties set up and the media was sitting at a picnic table. And like, it was just, it's just a different world out there. The weather's really good. The education's great. And the brand of baseball is pretty good, but nobody cares. And Thatcher Hurd came down here and saw what 10,000 people's like, not only in Baton Rouge, but also you go on the road and you see that kind of crowd in Columbia. You go on the road and see that kind of crowd in College Station. It's just a different environment. Of course, Thatcher Hurd saw the pinnacle of it in Omaha when LSU brought 15,000 people up there. You make a phone call to your buddy Gage Jump, who's plenty good enough to play at LSU, and say, hey, man, you don't have to hang out at the farmer's market in right field. You can come and play with us. And all of a sudden, Gage Jump is in. He's a left-handed pitcher, mid-90s fastball, breaking ball is very impressive. So we'll see what he looks like coming off of an injury, and I don't know how active he'll be in the fall. Maybe it's 100% go. Maybe it's a ramp-up situation, not unlike what Hurd had in the fall this year when they really limited him coming off of that lower back issue. But the anticipation with Gage Jump is that he'll be ready to roll by the first game, and that's a huge deal for LSU. The thing about LSU's pitching staff at this point, it is really left-handed. I mean, you figure Griffin Herring is going to factor in next year. You figure Nate Ackenhausen is going to figure in next year. Maybe Riley Cooper does as well. You've brought in Justin Lohr, who's left-handed. Gage Jump is left-handed. Like, you're going to have 6 or 7. I mean, your two best pitching signees in this class, and Cade Anderson and Jake Brown are left-handed. And, oh, by the way, if you get Cam Johnson, too, he's left-handed. You could have 7 lefties on this staff. It's just an embarrassment of left-handed riches. I'd like a few right-handers, if we're being quite frank, to balance things out. You got Thatcher Hurd, and that's a great base and a great starting point. But, man, is this LSU staff going to be really left-handed? We've heard Jay Johnson say many times that he's heard I can't remember what coach it was that said it, maybe Augie Garrido, that said you build your teams with left-handed pitching and left-handed hitting. And, man, is he taking that to heart with this team because they're going to be big-time left-handed next year. Jump was an 18th-round pick in the draft coming out of high school, decided to go to UCLA. He was a top 50 prospect leading up to the draft that year. So this is a big talent that LSU's bringing in. That's a very, very, very good thing for this baseball program. I'm continuing to monitor the draft and have not seen anything in LSU's never mind. We do have an LSU pick. That's great. Gavin Dugas goes in the 6th round to the Washington Nationals. Oh, by the way, the Nationals selected his buddy last night in Dylan Cruz. So Gavin Dugas, listed as a second baseman here, goes in the 6th round. And I'll tell you, Gavin Dugas is going to be a senior sign for the Nationals. They're going to save a significant amount of money. Let's see what the slot is on that pick. It is pick 165 in the 6th round. So that slot value is $350,000. Gavin will get significantly less than that, and the Nationals, who have a huge bonus pool with which to pay, they may save some of that Gavin Dugas money and toss it over Dylan Cruz's way. If you believe the rumors that were out there, and they were talking about Cruz wanting $10 million, well, his slot is $8.9 million. If you want to find an extra $110,000, you might find it from Gavin Dugas there in that slot pick. That's just me kind of thinking on things, but that may be the situation as Dugas is out of leverage. But so awesome for Gavin to be selected in the 6th round of the draft. He will start his professional baseball. Hopefully the arm's okay and the shoulder's all right, and he can get some work done this fall. But, man, what a Tiger Gavin Dugas has been for his 5 years in Baton Rouge. He leaves a national champion. Now he's a 6th round draft pick of the Washington Nationals with his buddy Dylan Cruz. So that's really, really cool as I continue to kind of cruise through here and make sure I didn't miss anything. Yeah, I think that's where we are at this point. Gavin Dugas off the board in the 6th round to the Washington Nationals. We'll take one more time out, come back, and see if anything else has happened. We'll play some Take It or Leave It. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.
Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
One Bath and Closets. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. I know it's not an awesome time to move right now. Interest rates not super awesome. That doesn't mean you can't improve your living situation. One Bath and Closets can do it. If you've got a dated bathroom, it's not very functional, let David Duvall and his team come in and handle it. He's been doing it for 30 years. Go to the website, OneBathAndClosets.com. You can request a free consultation there. You can see some of the great work they've done. You can see some of the reviews and why people choose One Bath and Closets. They can do a full-scale bathroom renovation for you. Soup to nuts. They do everything. They can do the floors and the plumbing and knocking out walls and handling shower. They can do the whole thing if you want a full-scale renovation. Maybe it's something simple. Tub-to-shower conversion. It's quick. It's affordable. Changes the functionality and the aesthetic of your bathroom. OneBathAndClosets.com is the website. Well, they'll do it right the first time and leave the competition behind. Check out the website, OneBathAndClosets.com.
Our listeners fire off their opinions on the jimsfirearms.net hotline at 499-1045. Keep listening for your next chance to shoot us your thoughts with the jimsfirearms.net hotline on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
is, the extra mile, on the border of expected and extraordinary, for those willing to go further, like vans customized for work or play, with safety and tech to keep you connected. Supported by a 5-star sales, service, and finance team, and backed by the 1-star you know. So go the extra mile. It's never crowded, because so few have what it takes to go there. Mercedes-Benz Vans.
When is a taco more than just a taco? When it's Government Taco. Voted best tacos 3 years in a row by 225 Magazine, Government Taco puts the most delicious spin on tacos the capital area has ever seen. With creative combinations like the Magna Carrot, the Filibuster, or the Steak of the Union. Plus perfect tortilla chips paired with the best salsa and queso you've ever had. And happy hour every day from 3 to 6 p.m. and all day on Thursday. Government Taco, 5621 Government Street.
Hey there, little buddy. What's the matter?
What's the matter? My windows, siding, and my door. That's what's the matter.
Relief Windows can fix all of that. I got you. Pop, pop. What's up?
Oh my gosh, look!
Curb appeal. That's a good-looking neighborhood. ReliefWindows.com.
Gulf Coast Office Products is a nationally recognized Savin office equipment dealer based right here in Louisiana. Over 100 employees strong, Gulf Coast has the boots on the ground to support all vertical markets, from education, engineering, legal, and finance. With the latest in office technology, from desktop to production segment units, Gulf Coast and Savin have the perfect fit for you. Call 225-756-2644. That's 756-2644 for Gulf Coast Office Products.
Dylan Cruz here to tell you about Six Rings Baseball and Softball Camp. If you live on the North Shore and play ball, go to Six Rings Camps with former LSU assistant coach Dan Canaveri. His knowledge is second to none, and your child will improve and have fun doing it. Camps were held at Coquille Park and Six Rings Academy in Covington with 4 sessions over the summer. Full day and morning only sessions are available from ages 7 to 13. Go to sixringsbaseball.com or call 985.
On Tuesdays, Off the Bench. Break down a little LSU football Cruton with some of the experts, plus another week closer to Saints Camp. What storyline should you be watching? Off the Bench, 7 to 10 a.m., 104.5 ESPN.
You're listening to Hunt Palmer on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
2 Tigers off the board on day 2 of the Major League Baseball draft. Had Trey Morgan in the 3rd round go to Tampa, and Gavin Dugas in the 6th round. He is headed to Washington. Just saw a familiar name pop up there in the 6th round to the Angels. Camden Manasseh. Last pitch he threw was a memorable one here in Baton Rouge. Tommy White's walk-off home run to beat Wake and advance to the championship series. So Camden Manasseh, 6th round pick of the Angels. If anything happens over the next 6-10 minutes, we'll let you know about it on the MLB draft side of things. Still, no high schoolers from LSU's class outside of last night's pick of Blake Mitchell, who went 8th overall to Kansas City. He'll be signing with the Royals for around $6 million, I do believe. All right, Jacob Beck, let's play some Take It or Leave It.
All right, first one here, the MLB draft on All-Star Weekend. Take it or leave it.
I'm going to take it. We talked about this on Friday a little bit. I like it because I don't like the fact that players were dealing with super regionals in Omaha and getting drafted. Now, coaches, I'm told, don't like it because they want to know what their roster looks like for next year. And the transfer portal's open, and there are guys making decisions and going places, and they don't know where the holes are on their roster. They don't know what the high school kids are going to do. They don't know what that draft-eligible sophomore is going to do. They don't have the information. So it makes building a roster a little more difficult from a time perspective. But from a fan perspective, I like it. You go from Omaha, you got a couple of weeks, then you got the draft, and it's kind of a natural progression in terms of us talking about it. I don't have to put a roster together, so I don't have to worry about it. But I like it, and I think it worked really well last night as well.
The Home Run Derby. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it. I like the Home Run Derby. I think what they've done with it, with the speeding things up and making it a head-to-head deal, I think all that has been really good. I mean, back in the day when I was a big Sammy Sosa fan, Sosa had a strategy, and it worked pretty well for him. He won a Home Run Derby in Atlanta. Maybe that was in Milwaukee that he won. But he would, every time he swung, he would take a pitch or two after that. And that just gets really monotonous and boring. I think this, where you keep guys engaged, you keep the clock rolling, you have the quick tiebreakers if need be. You can call a quick timeout if you need it. I just think it flows really well. And I'm still just super impressed as a baseball guy watching guys launch baseballs 450 feet. I think that's really cool. Plus, there's a little bit of heat on the pitchers, which I kind of like. You got dads pitching and pitching coaches pitching. And if they don't locate their pitches, you could have a real issue. So I like the home run derby. I think it works. I would much rather watch the home run derby than the dunk competition where they're jumping over cars and doing things they've already done before. Like, that doesn't do a ton for me, but I like the home run derby. I'm in on it.
The Spurs are shutting down Victor Wembanyama after just 2 games for the rest of the Summer League. Smart move by the Spurs. Take it or leave it.
I'll take it, sure. I mean, you're not really gaining a ton. I know that he's a young player and he needs to play, and I know that his first game didn't go so awesome, but it's Summer League. I'm just going to guess, fairly injury prone based on the fact that his body is 7 feet 5 inches tall and he doesn't weigh anything. But you get some weight on him. But you can control things in your facility a little more than you can control them in the Summer League. So if they want to protect their best asset and not have when did Chet Holmgren get injured? Was that like in the Summer League? I mean,
I think so.
That's your worst nightmare, is having something like that happen. So you limit your risk in a certain way. So they got him out there for a couple of games. Now getting back to facility. Are there Spurs fans that are worried about the production? Is that a thing? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not real locked in on the Summer League.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, he looked really good in the last game. He had 27 points. Okay. 15 rebounds, I think, a couple of blocks, and he actually looked pretty comfortable. So I think after that they were fine. So I'm sure they're not worried.
I saw some of the highlights from the first game. He's bricking threes. He's throwing up an air ball. He missed a dunk, which is tough to do when you're 7'5" or whatever he is. But I wouldn't put too much stock into it. I mean, I got Skip Bayless going on here talking about crazy stuff, and that's, I guess, how he makes a living. We're not going to do that much on this show. Not a lot of Summer League talk for us. We'll stick to the stuff that matters around here.
All right, last one here. Yankees pitcher and former Pirates draftee Garrett Cole will start the MLB All-Star Game. Paul Skenes will start the All-Star Game within 5 years as a Yankee. Take it or leave it.
Not in 5 years. He's got to have. He's going to play 5 or 6 for the Pirates, and then he'll move on to the mega deal. He'll pull the Garrett Cole, pull the Tyler Glasnow. They'll either get traded or he'll sign somewhere else because the Pirates have no intention of shoveling out big money. Although they did pay Ryan Reynolds, which was nice to see. Look, I'm a little concerned as a Cubs fan that Skenes is coming into the division. He seems like he's going to be pretty good, and the Cubs are going to have to deal with that. But they don't have the overloaded schedule anymore. You play a more balanced schedule, so the Cubs won't see Pittsburgh quite as much as they have over the last 20 years or so. But I'm pumped up for Paul. I was pumped up last night. I'm watching the draft, and I made a point last night because, in the NFL draft and certainly in the NBA draft, if you're on Twitter, you will get the pick before it's made. You got Woj dropping knowledge, whatever. I made a point not to pay attention to Twitter for 15 minutes until the first 3 picks were made. Because Cruz and Skenes were going to go at some point in the first 3, and I was just hoping that they were going to go 1 and 2, and it turns out that did work. And it was nice for me to be able to watch and not have it spoiled by Twitter. Same thing I was looking at. We had good seats for the championship game in Omaha behind LSU's dugout, and we're the 3 other people I was with, my dad, my buddy, and his dad, we're all 4 standing there as the last out's about to be made. And I saw a camera shot during the LSU takeover on Friday of the final out, and all the players kind of straddling. They're waiting for the final out, and then they all charge the field. Well, I'm standing there, and I looked at the shot. I'm like the only person in the entire shot that's not watching the game through their phone as they're recording. My dad's recording. My buddy's recording. His dad's recording. I'm the only one that was like taking it all in kind of live, which I thoroughly enjoyed, and I've got a middle memory there. And plus, if I need to see it, I guess I can just text one of them and have them send the video over. But it kind of felt like that, like actually enjoying the moment as it happens, which I did in Omaha and did it last night, not having Twitter spoil things. I love Twitter, and I like the information, and I like the fact that it comes quickly. But I feel like sometimes you need to live in the moment. And last night I was thrilled to kind of live in the moment with that Skenes and Cruz pick back to back, which was really, really cool. I'm going to scale through the draft picks one more time as we're about to get out of here. Jace Borfin had an awesome year for Arkansas. He's off the board there in the 6th round. Let's see. Any LSU guys here? Cooper Pratt, no. Jacob Cravey from Sanford, no, but he's a heck of a player. Had a Maryland catcher. Lucas Gordon, Texas's Friday night guy, and the Big 12 Pitcher of the Year goes in the 6th round, so I guess we won't be seeing him in Houston next year, which I kind of thought we might. He's headed off to the draft, and That's it. So at this point, as we sit here, they have made 184 picks. They're in the middle of the 6th round. We have not seen Cam Johnson off the board. We have not seen Stephen Milan off the board. We have not seen Ashton Larson off the board. We have not seen Jake Brown off the board. We have not seen Jordan Thompson off the board. The only 2 guys with LSU ties that have been selected today were Trey Morgan in the 3rd round and Gavin Dugas in the 6th round. So right now, signing class looks really, really good and intact, but that can change in an instant just because the slots are significantly reduced at this point. Let me see where they are in terms of slot value at this point. Down in the 184th pick, you're looking at a slot of about $300,000. So that's not going to pry many high schoolers away. However, if teams save some money, like the Nationals did drafting Gavin Dugas in the 6th round, you can find it somewhere in the 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th round, or even any later. Today is the biggest day for the LSU signing class. Today, if one of the signees is selected, it is all but certain they're going to sign. Tomorrow, guys get drafted all the time without any intention of signing, and the teams know it. It's okay to not sign guys. You don't lose any money. If you draft a player today and they do not sign with your professional organization, you lose that slot money from your draft pool. So teams are certain, as certain as they can be, when they make the pick today that they're going to get that player. So we'll react to all of it tomorrow. We'll see if Cam Johnson comes off the board. We'll see if Stephen Milan comes off the board, Ashton Larson, Jake Brown, all those guys. We will see tomorrow. Very much looking forward to that. If you missed any of the show, you can always catch it on demand. We invite you to do that. We're about done here. Matt Moscona is about to drive you home from 3 to 6 on After Further View. We'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place. It's the Hunt Palmer Show.